Yeah, like what do you, how do you want to open it?
But basically my thought was to just kind of explain to people like this. What this is more or less just us kind of having a conversation about recovery, life, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Um, More or less so that whoever's watching, whoever decides to watch, can say, "Oh wow, like that's gonna help me," or that you can kind of take
Yeah.
take what you need.
I think we should go around, do a quick
Yeah, basically.
introduction, quick just.
Yeah, just give your just give like a quick life experience. This is Mike. This is Henry. This is Brett. I'm Steve.
I'll start.
All right.
My name is Mike. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Mike.
I identify as an alcoholic for multiple reasons. One being I do everything in my life alcoholically. I learned that in early recovery because I did the I am Mike, I'm an addict alcoholic, because like I felt at the time I needed everyone to know, like I was either the same, maybe worse off. I had I think I was searching for more of a pity than a solution at that point in recovery, because sometimes I get hung up on that too now in meetings when everyone has to like, hi, I'm so and so, and they list off all these like addictions, right? And I learned, luckily in early recovery, that like if you identify as an alcoholic, you just summed up. You know, people in the room are gonna know what you're going through. So quick backstory of myself. Yeah, please. I started drinking very early, 14 years old. That quickly led into daily drinking through high school, and in late high school I was introduced to opiates, and that led till I was 36 years old. The last day I used a drug or a drink of alcohol was 2000. It was December 1st, 2019. In life leading up to that was definitely the roller coaster of life. I had jobs, kids, houses, wife, but also the flip side of that, a lot of time in jails, prisons, institutions, the good stuff. And the first time I said I was an alcoholic, I was 36 years old. It was December 7th, 2019. It was a few days into treatment. And as soon as I said it in a group full of men, I cried for the first time in front of men, which made me angry, which made me want to leave treatment. And I didn't leave treatment. But so now my life looks like I work a program, I pray to God, I meditate, and I surround myself with the individuals that want the same kind of success out of life. And success to me isn't, the money, houses, and cars and all that. It's a quality of life. I'm employable. I'm allowed to be in my children's life, and I maintain healthy relationships. And I have the abilities now to find out, even when those relationships don't feel as healthy, and I try to hang on to them because I love toxicity and I love chaos. I now quickly, more than ever in my life, able to cut ties with those things. So like that's just a quick thing with me. I mean, obviously there's a lot more, and we'll get into those things, I'm sure, throughout the discussion. But that's me.
Sure. Thanks, Mike.
Well, thanks, Mike. Henry, drug addict, alcoholic. My recovery date is what was it, like June 3rd, 2019. I personally don't count my time and mention my time because I think that's irrelevant. My sobriety is not defined by time; it's defined by my character at the present moment, right now.
Nice.
Who I am right now. And I'm very about the 12 steps. I take them almost literally. The fact that for example, there's no step that says don't do heroin, don't drink, right? But there's a step that says I'm powerless over heroin, I'm powerless over drinking. I'm powerless over my thinking, I'm powerless over how I feel, I'm powerless over what I want, and my solution of self-reliance doesn't work. Therefore, I need a higher power to refer to that. I call it God or my understanding. I work in recovery, and when I say recovery, I'm not talking about someone who struggles with doing dope or heroin or whatever. Someone who's struggling with a lack of power to live, right? And that's a societal issue. And I take pride in being part of that revolution to address to the world that most people are not okay inside. Most people can't say that. because we've defined rules on a conscious and subconscious level of, well, I can't really tell you what's going on with me. I can't really be vulnerable with me. And that can lead to a fountain of conversation. And I'll condense it to a need for transparency and a need for connection and a need for honesty. Like, do people have the courage to be honest? And so that's why I love recovery. I love connection, and I want to bring that to as many people as possible, whether they have a drug problem or not. So that's kind of my spiel.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Henry.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm Steve, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Steve. You.
Wow, it's like where to begin. I think what I don't want to do is get into like almost like I'm at like doing a commitment kind of thing, because that could get drawn out really. So basically, a lot like everybody else, is basically picked up at a young age, and basically just kind of ran with it. All the behaviors, everything. I sought out people who drank and drugged like I did, and part of that for me, I think, was just not understanding how to deal with life in general. And, as a kid growing up, the youngest, trauma, blah 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 blah. It was just like I just needed to fit in and shit, and so that's what I did. I was like, I'm gonna find people who drink and do drugs, and pushed all my friends aside and said, no, that's the life I want to have. Not really probably wanting it, just seemed alright, seemed to fit, that kind of thing. And I fast forward. Didn't do any jail time, never was homeless, really, but I was married, obviously, some of you guys know, I was married for like 20-something years, but probably half my marriage was consumed with, alcohol and all the behaviors of an alcoholic. And even when I was sober for brief periods of time, and even about an 8-year stretch, I still had all the behaviors. I never did any work on myself. I still was like all about me, and how could I get ahead, and how can I... If I was feeling like crap one day, I'd come home, I made sure everybody in that room was feeling as much as I was feeling, without explaining to them why I felt that way. My wife used to say to me all the time, she's like, we don't know what we're getting when you walk in that door. And I didn't care. I was like, okay, and your point is. So I basically that's just kind of how I lived my life, dove into everything else but recovery. Like, I went to AA when I was 18. It was the first time I had been to AA, and I just kind of laughed. Like, all these old timers sitting around telling me their problems, and I'm just like, dude, I'm just here to get my license back. I'm not here for anything else, John. I just want to get my license back. But yeah, so it took me, 30 years later, almost 30 years later, to just say, I can't do this anymore. Burnt it all down, like Mike, you just said. It's like, had the house, had the wife, had kids, had this, that, the dog, everything. I had it all, and I was just like, still wasn't happy. So I just burned it all down, and that's what ended me up in treatment. And, sitting here meeting you guys, working together. I would have laughed 15 years ago if you said, oh, Steve, you'd be working in treatment and helping other alcoholics and addicts. I would have said, no friggin' way, dude. No way.
I identify with that.
No way. That was the furthest thing in my mind, But I think with that said, though, like, without going through that process, without discovering, like, hey, there's more to life than this, and still don't, I think I still don't know, like, really, what is life gonna hand me next, kind of thing. And so I actually look forward to it,
Absolutely.
instead of, like, being afraid of it. Sure, I have some fears around it, but it's like, okay, why am I afraid? And that's what the steps, you know, they teach you, like, how do you break stuff down so that you're not afraid of all the things you were afraid of before,
Yeah.
you know? To me, it
You
just,
mentioned that. I in my schooling, the way they design it is they call it a scaffolding design for projects. So if it's like a 15-page paper, they say, all right, submit the first 2 pages this week.
yeah.
And I think what a big issue that people have is taking everything in at once, right? You go into treatment, what am I bringing? My whole fucking life problem.
Yeah.
And it's not like, and like the first thing I say, it's not just my, so many people are saying it's not just my alcohol problem. Like, and even when they don't say that, they're saying that, and that's why they go to their case manager. They go, I get all these issues solved. That's the way that mine works. If I get this one thing solved, right, and then it's that next thing I need to solve. And so when we scaffold, it's allowing someone to be like, just breathe, right? Where are you? You're in a room, right?
Yeah.
You're breathing, right? You have clothes on, right?
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world today. It's not 9/11 today. Like, you're fine. And that's not to like break. I'm gonna keep breaking off and doing this, but like that to me has been recovery, and I need more of that in my personal life. And one of my issues I have is I'm really good at being a preacher and saying all these things, but as soon as I leave the preaching room, my character defects are funneling out in other ways.
Yeah.
And I'm compensating through preaching.
Right.
And the clients, working in recovery, they notice that. 'Cause I'm doing this big speech, and then all of a sudden they ask me for a pack of smokes right after, and I'm about to tell them to fuck off.
Yeah.
And so it's this ongoing thing where, internally I have these, what I call these deficiencies of why is it that I'm not the way I think I should be. And I compare myself to celebrities, famous people, or celebrities too, wealthy people, whoever, like, in my mind, I'm like, well, that's how I should be. Well, okay, well, how am I really? And more importantly, well, how is it I feel about it? It's not what it is or that thing, it's how I feel about that thing. And then when we talk about how we feel, that to me is always a spiritual concept, right? We go to, well, what do you need? Need versus want, and so I don't want to go off, but
Yeah, no, that's good.
I'm gonna, it's kind of
Brett.
Was
yeah.
done,
Oh,
Steve?
sorry.
You good?
Yes.
I'm pretty much done. I think it's just I'm just amazed at, like, because I never thought there was more to life than I'm not gonna say just drinking and drugging. Obviously I knew there was more to life than that, but it was. It's like really working on this, like what was going on in here. And I just spoke the other night at this commitment, and I'm like, that was the biggest thing for me. Even though I had 8 years, I never did any work on me. I just did it to please somebody else, or to shut somebody up, or to say, yes, I'm working on me. But never really. Like, I just told therapists and so on and so forth what they wanted to hear, so I was just like going through the motions. So I think like that for me was like the biggest part of going to treatment was like I can't do that anymore. I can't hide. I can't, like, it's not helping me. I actually just lost everything. So how was that helping me? So that's like, I literally was like, I have to do this no matter what they tell me to do. I have to do it. I'm like, because I have no other way. I don't know any other way. I really BS'd my way through life, and just told people what they wanted to hear. Put on that happy face, the clothes, the nice clothes and all that. And everybody would look at me and they'd like, I had no idea that you had that going on inside of you. I was like, of course you did. I became a master at just covering it all up. I was that super funny guy, like at school, and kind of like what you were just saying with like the preaching thing. I catch myself doing that a lot too, is where I'll talk to somebody. I'll be driving home and going, Steve, are you doing what you just told that person to do?
Bingo.
Like how, and if you are, to what degree are you doing it?
Right.
Are you really,
Are you willing to openly admit that you're not doing it though, to other people, right?
to other people,
That's huge for me.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
I I try, right? I probably still bluff away, like we're fucking liars. Excuse my language.
Yeah,
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my big thing is, and I know we're like bouncing back, and I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So my big thing is, I also work in treatment. I don't know if I mentioned that. So like, my big thing is, I gain this respect from certain clients because I legit will rattle off where Mike's fucking up.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, you know, a lot of times people are like, I don't know why this client responds to you this way, but as soon as you leave, he's this way or she's this way. And I so badly, and sometimes like the fear, I won't say it out loud, which is very rare for me. I'm pretty much an open book and wear my heart on the sleeve kind of guy. But like, I will tell a client, this is where I'm messing up, right? But I'm working not to do it tomorrow.
Right.
And like, that's not, you know, kind of like, it's an underlying justification.
Sure.
But it's a healthy one. And I'll justify it on top of that justification. It is healthy, right?
Right.
I never would openly tell anybody anything I did wrong. Right? Like, I'm the kind of person growing up, there's red paint on this wall, my hand's covered in red. I didn't do that. Right? I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Dad, I swear to God, Grandpa, whoever, right?
Yeah.
Police, whoever's involved in that situation, I would lie so good in my head that I start believing myself, and I want to know why the red paint's on my hand. Right? So like I will openly tell, like I have sponsees that when they call me and they start rattling off the list of shit, I'm like, listen, man, I can't even give you advice on this, but we can talk it out together because like I'm also receiving text messages from somebody I probably shouldn't. I'm also telling my friend, you can't do that, and then I just left and went and did it. So it's when you get open, like that's a huge ingredient in the Mike's sobriety is the willingness to just be fucking honest.
Yeah, yeah. Be vulnerable.
Right? You have
Vulnerable
to.
is a good. Yeah.
So like,
I heard that a lot.
it goes back. Like I don't usually quote the big book. I'm not really like I love the big book. I read it all the time. I read it out loud to people, but I have no memory. Like I can't recite many things out of the big book to you. I just it's not me.
I'm the same way.
But the things that do stick in my brain are most important to me, obviously, because they're in my fucking brain.
Right.
And Henry and I just talked about this the other day. It's like how it works. And everyone on this table knows how it works, right?
Right.
And I know we all love that chapter. We've all read that chapter together on many times.
Yeah, I love that chapter.
That first page, let alone the first paragraph, is a big part of my recovery. Not saying it saved me and God came down and smacked me, but it says honesty, 5 times in the first 72 words in that book, in that page.
Yeah.
And I was reading muffled and grumpy in treatment, but when that honesty word came across, it was so fucking loud.
Yeah.
Something was telling me, you are a liar. You have, like, and I tell this in, like, when I do commitments and stuff. When I walked into treatment, I thought of this movie called Flight.
Absolutely.
And he's at an AA meeting, and at the beginning of the movie, and he tells everybody, I hit my lie limit that day, I can't tell any more lies.
Nice.
So that movie played in my head going into treatment. I was high, I was drunk, I was arguing with my ex-wife.
Yeah.
And why did that movie play in my head? Now I know why.
Right.
That's what God had for me. He had to have something relate to me. I'm a movie buff. I love movies.
Right.
How am I going to get to this kid? What conduit could I use to channel to this kid? And I was 36-year-old, but I was a broken child, realistically. Peel off the onion layers and all that. So this movie plays in my head. Like I said, conduit, boom, God.
Yeah.
Did I know it then? No, I probably knew it, honestly, like 13 days later. But I hit my lie limit. And I say that, right? I'm saying it to you right now, in front of 3 of my best friends, in front of a camera. I hit my lie limit. I've probably told a million lies since. But I own them as fast as I can. Right? Like, I'll be like, I lie about shit that's not, like, I will literally tell my child when I'm on the way home that I'm stopping at the store to get milk. And I'm on the highway.
Yeah, so you lie about stuff you don't need to lie about.
Yeah, and I text her back or call her back, and I'm like, I'm not even at the store.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, no kidding, I heard the wind. Like, why?
Right.
But a blessing is, boom, within seconds,
You recognize.
something boom, why did you just tell your 16-year-old child you're buying milk at the store? You're not even in a store, you're on 93 North. Like, But it's like, it's a selfish, I want to be left alone, right? I didn't want that phone call. So like the quickest thing I could probably tell her is I'm in a store. Because what do you tell, most people say, oh, you're in the store, I'll call you back.
Sure.
If I said I was in the car driving, she's going to continue to ask me like why there's not enough cookies or why her shoes were left outside, right? Like, that's selfishness.
Yeah.
And it's dishonest, but it's boom. It's like, I love the fact that that can be happening so fast now. Because I would turn that lie into coming home and somehow manipulating a lie that I have to, I was in the store and I forgot the butter too. And then I get to go have 20 more minutes away from the things I want the most in life, right? I wanted this the most in life, and sometimes I catch myself running from it.
Yeah.
We talked about this when you walked through the door earlier.
Yeah.
Something goes great in Mike's life, I have to break it, I have to destroy it before someone else does.
Right.
And I can be honest about that.
Yeah.
And now I can tell someone else that, whether it's you three or even my significant other.
Yeah.
So that, to me, it's the honesty and being able to like point those things out.
Right.
I think that, for me, when I think about just the lying and fabricating, for me, I'm a fabricator. I don't call it lie, fabricating. You know what I mean? I'm adding finesse because I like to put glitter on things and make things shiny because the truth is not stimulating enough. An example, I wrote my father an email not too long ago mentioning all my issues, and I wrote gambling issue, which is completely false. I told him I have a gambling problem. Why? Because I sound cool. Yeah, Dad, I roll the dice. No problem with that. And I don't, because I didn't like the part where I told him about the strip club problem, which is true.
Right.
Right? Because I was ashamed to tell him, okay, no, that's something he would not do.
Right.
And so, why is the truth not good enough? Well, one is the truth's raw, and it doesn't feel that good. And the other is, I don't feel like I'm enough. I feel like my story's not enough, or I should have more, or be more. Mm-hmm. And so it's compensating for a deficiency I don't have. And I see that with a lot of alcoholics, is they're using their drug of choice to compensate for something they don't have. Right? I don't get high to go to party. I get high to wake up in the morning and show up to life. Right. And so I think just that, and there's so much more honesty I need to work on. Part of my issue is working in recovery. If I were to say all these other things I've done, I probably would be fired. Right. Because I can't really say everything. And I'm not really talking about drugs, but a lot of other things. And right. Just things I've said to clients, things I've done. And it makes me question. It comes back to that societal issue of what's our issue. And I just feel like we live in a compete and compare culture. And I have nothing against competition and stuff like that, but I think it's an overdrive of capitalism and all these other issues, and I think it just separates people, and that gets into dislocation theory and how we have fragmented communities, and there's really no connection anymore, and we don't know our neighbors' names and stuff like that. So I want to shut myself up though before.
I'd like Brett to.
Yeah, Brett, chime in, please.
Chime in, sure. Please. I'm Brett, alcoholic.
Brett.
And reckless alcoholic for most of my adult life. Just generally like functional from like 7 to 4:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock, however early I could get it on that day by lying, getting out of work or the office early enough so I could start drinking, so I could get enough in me so that I could, you're not blowing zeros until like 2 p.m., but at least maybe not smell like booze at 8.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, everything's just like, how can I get drunk now, like as fast as possible and get away with it?
Yeah.
Like, but like I'm not trying to get like a couple of beers. I'm trying to drink it, so much, as much as I can. But so doing that just until I wasn't functional anymore, going to detox, going to whatever the next step had to be so that I could go back to work and see how long I could make it last, So, that's kind of like, but yeah, just characterized by hate, dishonesty, fear, which is where it all came from.
Yeah.
I just identify with so many things that you guys have already touched on. Yeah, we can kind of like roll into more of it, I guess. Specifically, just I guess like the honesty thing, since that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like if I had simply had like an honest, see, I didn't want what was good for me, which, and the good things that are coming now, I don't even like, yeah, like it sucks, you know what I mean? And I'm not ungrateful, right? Every time I drive by Massabesic, it's a good reminder to me, because when I didn't have a license, like one of the best days of that time for me was when it was a nice day out and I rode my bicycle to Massabesic, right? But that was like an event, you know what I mean? It was like an X amount of miles, like, and there wasn't like, couldn't bring a backpack of stuff. I couldn't, you know what I mean? It was literally just like getting outside in nature, and that was all I had. And I was so grateful for that. So now when I drive by Massabesic, stressed, angry, right? Like slipping in and out of like untreated alcoholism in the mind. Like I pause and I'm like, holy smokes, like I got a car, I got a job, like I'm slowly working back into like all the positive things. And it just, something you said earlier was like, I wanted everything, every time I failed, I wanted everything right away. I wanted to get back on track as fast as possible, and I needed it all fixed. Right, but like now, like, okay, that might be 5 years, 10 years down the road, that might be like never, you know what I mean? Like I might not like get to where I thought Brett needed to be, but...
Or where's that place?
right, but like Steve said, like I don't know what it is today, right? My plan and my design like was one thing, but maybe that's not for me. But like the exciting thing about not knowing what's in front of me is it can be way better than the stuff that I wanted, right? Which is just going to end up making me mad because I'm paying property taxes and like bowing down to the man, you know what I mean? That's stuff that I'm going to drink over anyway. So like, I don't know what the good stuff is, but like I can tell you that by me like drinking today, I'm not going to get it. So another day of like in and out of like struggling with the slowness and mundane aspects of life, so that I can get, hopefully, maybe, or maybe not hopefully, I don't know, but like get to tomorrow so that maybe more will be revealed. I don't know.
Well, I like you say that because it brings up an issue I have. That's when I talk, like, because I always do this. I mention something and I go right into dislocation theory and all these big things, and basically it's like me talking about this utopia I want to create.
But that's good stuff.
It's good stuff, but it does take me out of reality. Where, and this is where I turn into like a Jim Jones. People assemble, like I just get corrupt and like, I'm like, especially at work, I'm like the preacher, and one day I'm gonna be wearing glasses. Next thing you know, because my alcoholism, and it goes back to fabrication, wants this perfect utopia. In Buddhism, I talk about the 10 worlds and the 6 lower worlds. That 6th world is called heaven, right? It's a beautiful. That should be a good world. But it's actually considered a lower world because it's a very short state, and those who get obsessed with it drop right down to the 1st world, which is hell. And in between that is anger, all these negative things. And the 4 noble worlds are enlightenment, learning, embracing, being in the now, feeling what is now. So I just like what you said, Rex. It stems on like everything is about every day looking at your character defects and what it is. Why is it that I'm a shitty person? Why? How exactly am I self-centered? And then more importantly, what is my action to fix that? So yeah.
So now, what do you think that? Like, cause I have a lot of those same conversations with myself all the time, and I mean, I got too much time on my hand to have those conversations. And I think the funny thing I ask myself is like, why am I still having these conversations? And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. It's good. My brain is not the same as it should be. I don't know what the hell I was going to say there. Yeah, I just lost my train of thought. That's going to happen.
Right.
That happens quite a bit actually.
But, so checking my defects and how I'm like self-seeking and like, you know, if I'm unchecked, like every situation, like by thinking that and catching up to the things, right? So I can make every mistake all day up until the first drink, because like the first drink's gonna put me way back, right? But at least like if I lie to somebody, if I shade the truth a little bit, if I fabricate, if I, you know what I mean? If I didn't tell you that I was gonna be late, right? I'll deal with it when I get there, right? Like not cool,
Yeah.
but like not
I've
the end of
actually
the
heard
world.
you speak on that before. Yes.
Like not the end of the world, right? But so like I'm catching up to my behaviors, like, and instead like thinking of other people, right? So maybe like giving you a heads up. I actually did think about it, didn't have the action though to do it, and be like, hey, I'm cutting it close today, you know. But like my behaviors today are different, right? Somebody said recently, like the sister of a friend of mine was like, Brett never gets angry, right? But I would never get today, if I got angry in front of that person, oh my gosh, I would be so ashamed of myself, right? This is like, it's like a child like mentality that this person has. If I yelled at that person, right? Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
So,
You feel the guilt?
but like today, but Brett from like '08 is definitely reaming this person on every mistake, right? For what? Right? Because so it's not my fault, right? You know what I mean? If there's somebody else to blame, I'm gonna like pick up on it instead of just like eating the fault. Even if like there's no fault to be had, right? Everybody's sick.
Absolutely.
Right.
I think like, you know, my issue when it comes to vulnerability is really being able to share what my issues are with just my lack. For me right now, I'm struggling with lack of energy and lack of will to want to show up to a lot of things. And my drug of choice, amphetamines and speed. I mean, I take speed, all my problems are solved. I'm fast. I can do all these things, and then without it, it's like I feel like I'm stunt. I'm a stop to my growth. And so with therapy and stuff like that, I know for me, I'm trying to figure out. You know, everyone has to individualize what their problems are, and to some extent, have to be very strategic with how they have solutions. So I was talking about this today with the clients. A lot of people struggle with Big Book because it almost comes off as they expect magic. Me, higher power, feel better now. You know, yell on the steps. Thirds, like we quote these things all day, and we're sick as dogs, right? Like, I don't know if that's even an analogy. Where there really is like a methodical, scientific, strategic element, at least what I'm seeing with what I have to do with my own internal psychology. There's times where I almost want to call my supervisor and be like, I gotta leave because I have mental health issues.
Right.
I need to go wait. I need to go to a treatment center that just figures out me. I'm not even on anything.
Right.
But as the Big Book says, the trouble's my fucking mind.
Yeah.
It causes issues and feelings and pains, and it's a full-time job to address that.
Yeah.
But I need a job.
Yeah.
During the day, as we were just talking with Mike, I need money.
Right.
So it's just so much going on with like there's no perfect answer, but it's amazing how, you know, like I personally I'm closed off. And I think because I work in recovery, I'm doing it both, and I think I'm getting it both ways. I'm getting paid, and I'm getting my recovery, and no, I'm fucking not.
No.
Right.
Because the Big Book says no one makes a sole vocation of this work,
Right.
right? Nor do we think its usefulness would be present, and so.
Right.
I think working in recovery is one of the biggest challenges of recovery.
Oh yeah.
All four of us at this table have worked in recovery.
Right.
Two of us still actively doing that.
Yeah.
Two of us not. And then it's that shady weirdness too of like how do you stay sober, right? Like I wanted to touch on that. I hear this a lot, right?
Yeah.
How do you stay sober? Meaning what? Staying sober and working in recovery?
No, just how do you stay
Oh,
sober,
just stay
right?
sober,
So
period.
this is a subject I'd like to roll into if that's all right with you guys, because
Yeah.
like if we I feel like doing this, people if like we have people watching this, and like I don't know, like you guys are pretty active in the community. Henry and I are very like not very active, but we work in it and also have to go outside and do our own recovery.
Right.
I'm going to meetings, and I've definitely talked to you about this, and you I don't know if I've mentioned this with you. I'm going to meetings right now, and I'm like 28 months sober, like time again, like it goes back to Henry said, like my first year recovery, I had every chip. They're hanging on my living room wall.
Right.
You turn around, you can see them.
Right.
The last chip I got was probably my 18 month, and that was because a friend brought it to me, right? And like that, and that's my own like ego. Like I'm not going up there. They already know me. So I'm going to these meetings now. I'm 28 months, and I'm the old timer in the room.
Right.
And then I'm like blown away by it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then I get frustrated, and I have like side conversations with the guys at the meetings, and I'm like, listen, like. And they're like, well, how do you stay sober? And like the asshole part of Mike wants to be like, because I fucking do the work. Like I want to get really angry with these people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then now I've been doing a lot of like soul searching in mind, like trying to keep the anger away, right?
Right.
Because I have anger issues. Big part of my recovery. This 12-step program has allowed me to do things in my life without the anger and the violence and the weird behaviors, right?
Right.
So. Like I always tell people, like I would love to beat recovery into you because, like,
Yeah.
right? Because like I'm pretty good at throwing an ass whooping. I feel. Like,
Right,
I'm pretty
yeah.
confident in that. Like,
Yeah.
if I could beat recovery into you, like Jesus Christ, I wouldn't have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that's not the case, right? So it's like, how do you like? I want to know, like, I want you guys to touch on this, like, in your own quick thing. Like, what did you do in early recovery that you see 90% of these people not doing now? And I'm not trying to trash on people, right? Because I'm not. But there's got to be something, right? Because
I can tell
Steve,
you immediately.
I know you have over 3 years.
Yeah, I've got
And that's a lot of time.
I've got a lot of time. Not in
But
my
it's
mind,
not.
I don't.
Yeah, but go to an old school AA meeting right now, and you're the newcomer in the room.
I am the
and they're gonna
newcomer
bash
at
you, and they're gonna.
At my home group, I'm the new kid on the block.
What are we
Call it.
doing? Because like I ask myself this, and I can't give myself a solid answer sometimes. Like, what am I doing differently than these? I'm sorry, these poor bastards.
Well, I think it's along the lines of like your mind. Like I can honestly say when I was probably still in sober living, you know, and I was trying to control everything, like, and I had nothing. Okay, and so I'm trying to control what's going on in Merrimack, and I'm living in Mass, and my daughter, and this and that, and I got to the point where I was getting so frustrated that I didn't have that control, that I said to myself, I have no effing choice. I have to let go of that.
Similar.
And I think when I don't know if it was really vocal. I was really vocal with myself. I used to go and stand in front of the mirror a lot. That started actually at Green Mountain. It was suggested to me from a case manager that I had. She's like, look in the mirror and tell yourself that, tell yourself you love yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like piece of cake. Couldn't do it. I'd look in that mirror and I would just waterfalls. So then I got to that point where I basically said, I'm like, I have no effing choice. Like, if I want to have a relationship with my daughter, which at the time I was non-existent and it broke my heart, and if I want to, you know, be someone that people actually look up to, like, I have to do this. I have no choice. And that, when I made that decision,
So
whether it
is
was
that,
my higher power,
in your definition, would that be turning your will over?
oh, 100% I turned my will over. There was a situation where I was at Green Mountain. I left Little Big Book, you know, like 5 days into the treatment.
Yeah.
Went for a walk up to the water tower. Nobody knew I was up there, and had that experience, a spiritual. That was like one of my first real experiences, like feeling the power of God. My understanding.
Yeah.
Right, and that for me started the whole, like, just, I need effing help, man. Like, I cannot do this. And I just, it just came over me. And I walked back down that mountain, and I didn't feel like $1 million, but I felt lighter.
Yeah.
And once I felt that, I was like, wow, like, what was that? Yeah. And then it was introduction to meditation. I had never meditated, ever. Did a heart meditation, open heart meditation, dude. I, to this day, don't know what happened, but it was just my whole body. I had like just this whole body experience.
Yeah.
And
You know, like it's funny because you. Sorry to cut you off, but you saying that we collectively believe you.
Sure.
Right? Because we've had that. You answered.
yeah, I hope everybody's
feel
had that.
So far, you've answered exactly like what I try to answer to myself every day, right? And I try to tell clients and guys at meetings and my sponsees. The problem is, this is where Mike's problem was in this. It sounds so fucking corny. It sounds so unbelievable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So we sit here and we discuss all these horrible things and like, and like we're four different personalities. We're four different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's crazy to me.
Right.
If we met at a bar, you and I would have walked by each other, nothing.
Right. I probably would have looked at you and said, "Well, that dude looks like he can rip my head off. I'm not even going to talk to him."
And I guarantee you, I was being an asshole at that bar that night, right? So.
I've been like bike
I
person.
probably have.
Yeah.
You actually probably did run into
Right,
at bars.
but now we can sit in a room and have these conversations and like with compassion.
Yeah.
And it's because at some point we had to let go of something, whatever that is.
Right.
With me, it was. I'm just talking for me. So much shit.
Yeah.
My biggest thing when I was same place you had your experience and yours.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
We were all the same, like different times.
Yeah.
But that same place brought something to my life I never had before. And I still really have an answer for what it is, right? Because like people ask me, like, what's your higher power? Because I'm not a Jesus guy. I have a cross around my neck. Because it's a prayer that I've been saying for years, and I was like, oh, cool, it looks awesome. It matches my earrings.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Right.
That's pretty much I've been thinking, like, I thought about taking the cross off, but I was like, yeah, it kind of goes with the edgy, like Mike's a biker kind of guy, right? And that's just being honest.
Right.
But I don't not believe in Jesus or whatever, right? Because like, who am I to say that?
Right.
My higher power is still something to me that I don't have a word for. Like I don't have that magic answer when clients or other guys ask me. Like I wish I did,
Right.
but I have to be honest about that. Do I know it exists? Yes. We're sitting here.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, we're miracles.
There was so many other things going on 28 months ago that realistically had said Mike's not going to be sitting at his table.
Oh yeah.
With three best friends from total different backgrounds,
Right.
different age groups,
Right.
whatever. And that meant a lot to us back then, right? Like, Henry didn't come off as a guy I wanted to hang out with.
Yeah, no.
Still kind of does it. No.
I love Henry.
But I rely on this man
Yeah.
more than I don't think you guys know, right?
Right.
And he does to me, and I do Brett and you, and
Right.
and it doesn't have to be every day and all that, but to me that's such a blessing, and that's a huge part of my early recovery because that happened to me every fucking time I didn't want it to. I walked into treatment, I'm gonna beat the first guy up I see, I'm gonna get kicked out.
Right.
That's worked for me in other places.
Right.
Right? Didn't happen. Every guy I tried talking shit to, they're like, we love you, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't tell me you love me. That's weird, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I have no way you telling a man you love him. Like,
Yes.
so then I'm
So
leaving
that's-
treatment,
Go ahead.
and I'm telling full-grown men, I love you, dude. I hope you get this.
Right.
Then I'm like, I'm not going to sober living because I'm good. I have a job, I have a car, all that good stuff, right? And then people got in my face and they're like, dude, you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. But they're like,
Right.
you're 36 years old. You keep saying it, and I have to say this to clients now, which pisses me off. I kept saying I'm going home. I didn't have a fucking home.
Right.
I wasn't allowed at that home for 10 months before I went to treatment. If I got 500 feet towards that home, I was going to jail.
Right.
Right? Okay, I had a job. I had a job that I could sell drugs at and do drugs and drink all day as long as I did my work.
Oh yeah. Same here.
Right? So why? In my brain, I got to go back there because I know the money I can make there. And going into sober living, same thing. I got forced into sober living, by my ex-wife and kids, by a certain person who owned the sober living community at the time, and I'm like, but I get there, I'm gonna beat the first guy up I see. I said, because that's all Mike knew,
Right.
to act out in this weird, pathetic way.
Right.
I walked in at 3 guys I had done time with, and one of them was looking at a life sentence. He's sitting on the couch, healthy, with weight on his body. Didn't recognize him. He recognized me.
Yeah.
And then like we had a conversation. And that night I was like, how is this? Like, 'cause I keep hearing all these stories in rehab and all this,
Yeah.
and like the RSSs are walking around telling me, oh, I used to stab people in Harlem. Like, I was like, what? You know, like why? Like, but like never wanted to admit that's like I wasn't stabbing people. But you know, like I was doing right. I was doing weird stuff. Like I was doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And like, and then like and I would ask them, how are you sober then?
Right.
And then you have to learn, like I had to learn life.
Yeah.
I lived life. I had, like you said, Steve, like, you and I have a similar background in some ways. We had the house and the kids, and we were sober for lengths of time because of,
we had to be.
we thought we had to be, like for that reason.
Yeah.
Like if she leaves me, then I have to pay her, I have to pay the house and child support. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I just won't do heroin this week. But in my case, I didn't stop drinking. Because I wasn't an alcoholic. I would tell everybody, dude, I'm addicted to heroin, dude, I don't know what to do. Right? But they're like, bro, you're literally slamming a bottle of Jameson as you speak. Like, where's this heroin you talk about?
Right.
Like, I've never seen you do heroin, but you are literally walking around with a fifth of Jameson like it's a juice bottle.
Right.
But I had to learn all these life things too. Like I had to go to sober living. I had to like get up and go to work without drinking that bottle of Jameson before I did. Because in treatment, how hard is it really to get up and just walk around? It's not that much energy. It sucks.
Right.
But then I had to go back and do concrete work sober. I've never done that.
Right. Yeah.
My first day back to work, I wanted to kill myself.
Yeah.
I could only work 8 hours. I was working 16-hour shifts before that. And like I had to learn all these things and like. So like it goes back to like how do I stay sober and like I had to accept.
Mhm.
I had to like
That's a
turn
big
the wheel
part.
over.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Like one of the prayers that was shown to me, or was suggested that I read, was it's asking, like well, I'll just do the end of it. Was basically just saying, forgive to be forgiven, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, and it gets to the point where it's saying, die each day. And I'm like, are they literally telling me I gotta die each day? And it took me a while after reading it over and over and over and over, and I'm just like, oh. So like, the way I had perceived it as at that moment was, it's asking me to die to my past, okay? My past way of thinking, my past way of wanting to control or whatever it is, all those past behaviors, so that I can live, right, and be free. And to me, that like was a big part in sober living.
Mm.
Like I'm writing my 4-step and I'm like miserable and want to kill myself or kill somebody or whatever, but it was just like my life was so miserable that I was just like, you know what, I really have to dig down deep and really like rely on my higher power, rely on what these, I call them kids because they were young enough to be my kids.
Yeah.
With these kids who were telling me what to do, and I think once it was like over and over and over and over of just telling myself like, Steve, you don't know what you're doing. You need the help that you need what these guys are telling you. And they had other guys coming in who were equally as like they were good. Like teaching us how to do inventory, teaching us, like what does that really mean? You just surface level BS, that kind of stuff. And so that's when I got like really into, I think my 4th step when, my turnarounds and all that, that was where, I had a lot of pain, but a lot of growth.
You know what's crazy about that work though, you're talking about? If I was to look at someone, if Michael Jordan walked in here right now and said, all you have to do is shoot a basketball towards a hoop for 2 hours a day and you can play like me in 2 years, we'd do it. You talk to people like that about recovery and they get, their fucking heads explode.
Right.
Right? You just gotta put a little bit of work in yourself every day.
Every day. Just
And in 2 years, like I've had people all the time, like I've almost gotten fights with people at the Hope Center because they were like, must be nice, you have a motorcycle. And I'm like, you're fucking right, it's nice, I had to work. But I'm like, whoa, right? Because like, my frustration is it's some work,
Right.
and then it's a lot of work, and then it's some work, and then it's a lot more work, right? It, like, I always say it's a roller coaster because it is. It's not fucking rainbows and butterflies, but it's work. But if you were told to go throw a basketball for only 2 hours a day, and then next thing you know you're making $20 million a year,
Right.
you would see 1 million people at every basketball hoop in the world.
Absolutely.
But you look at a room full of 22 people and you're like, hey man, you just got to do these certain things,
Right.
and then it's just mind explosion. Like it doesn't. Like that's where I get like hung up too myself is like. I forget that I didn't do none of that shit for the longest time.
Right.
I didn't do none of it. And then I start putting myself on a pedestal, right? Like, you know, you do the work, and they don't want to do the work, fuck them.
Right.
But I don't feel that way. I genuinely care about people so much, but now it's like I'm getting that reverse effect where I start getting mad at them, right?
Yeah.
And like we talked earlier about repeat customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like, it's anger. It fills up, but then I'm like, now it's that anger where it's like, all right, we're gonna try something different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all because I put the work in.
Right.
It's just me. Like I can't do it for you or for him or for that guy, right?
Right.
But I so badly want to
Yeah.
because I'm taught through this process and these steps to do for the next person. And in my head, I'm like, just let's go.
Yeah.
Right.
Just do this.
Come
this,
on,
man.
bro,
Come on.
right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sick of fucking discharging you, but like let's go to a fucking meeting.
Yeah.
Come sit at my dining room table with me and have some burgers and shoot the shit.
Yeah.
But it's like I forget how fucking crazy and hard it was just to get to that point. Henry, you said you had like a quick.
Oh yeah, I think in summary, Henry wants to just some he wants to drop.
I mean, I'm just gonna say whatever.
Just say whatever.
I really like this. I think this is what this is like a meeting. This is an AA meeting.
Yeah.
And there's so much more I want to say. But you know, we talk about like connecting and really talking about our problems. And I mentioned at the beginning this scaffolding thing, and that. I mean, this is just the beginning of that. There's only so much we're going to touch on today.
Right.
And I look forward to continuing this so we can, you know, reveal more. At least I want to reveal more about what's going on with me and in my life and all this stuff. But going back to what were we talking about? A little bit on ego and stuff like that. And then you were mentioning how you were used to working long 16-hour days in construction because you were on these substances.
Yeah.
And that's my issue right now with all this work I have, and I just don't have that energy to keep up with all of it. And I'm like, I'm failing one of my classes. Like I have to have a serious call with my advisor tomorrow about school because I'm like fail both these classes, and I'm freaking out about it. And and I ask myself, well, are you learning? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, why does it matter if you fail or not? You have plenty of time to retry again, get the money back again, or whatever it is that I need to do. And that to me is gone. Is when I give up that fear of money, that fear of this, that, and yeah, it's a bitch. You need money. You know, redoing something sucks or whatever it is.
Right.
But that's fine. Because I have infinite amount of time to keep bettering myself, to keep getting stronger. And that fear of scarcity is what keeps me weak. And my God is abundance. There's plenty of time, plenty of money, but it's my sickness in my mind that says I gotta have it right now. It's gotta be perfect this way, and I burn myself out. And so I wanted to end with that. It's just like what our clients come in with is, give me the world, fix it for me.
Yeah.
And I
In
can
28
fix
days.
10 things for you right now. You're gonna bitch about 20 more.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's my sign off.
It's blowing the birthday candles out. You blow 3
It's
out and
all
5
bad.
more light back up.
Yeah.
I'm
That's all
very
it is.
competitive when it's talking about spiritual stuff. That's one of my
Yeah.
sicknesses, but
That's the thing. I think that is it's very important. Like to remind people, like you're not. And I say this. I've said it so many times. Working and out of work, and commitments, wherever. Like it was only said to me because it's like, Steve, you took 40 years of your life and effed that up. Okay, there is no way you can expect it all to be better tomorrow,
yeah, right.
right? And so stop trying to fix it all at once. You know, I mean, they're like, it may take you 4 years, it may take you 10 years. Yeah, like, but the part that you need to try to let go of, and that's a big part of me, is letting go of all these things. Is like understanding, like, no matter what, as long if I fail, I gotta get back up.
Yep.
I gotta keep moving forward. I gotta keep getting up. Keep getting up. If I fall 100 times, and I heard this quote actually from Les Brown. It was actually pretty fire. He's like, if you can fall down, if you make sure you fall on your back, you can get up. You know, something like that, of that nature. I'm terrible at that kind of stuff, but and that too is like a thing that I do. Negative self-talk is huge. And I've learned a lot about that just in the last few months.
I'll never forget this. When you got your year chip, you were like, my brain tells me I'm not good enough, right? I get a promotion at work, I jump in my truck, and you're like, they hate you.
They hate you.
When you said that, I was like, how the is he reading my mind? Because like, at the time,
I need to go. Alright. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Love you.
Thanks for coming.
At that time in my life,
Love you.
I was getting a lot of those things back, right? I was getting the kids back. I got like, I think it was right around that time I got my apartment or just got it, and like the girls were on their way home. And then like my brain every morning was like, you're gonna get your kids back and they're gonna take them, and your girlfriend's gonna leave you, and you can't pay your rent, and like, but like that, I didn't drink over it.
Right.
So like, that flips over to like, all right, I've come to the point in my life now where like I can fail, and not jump to that excuse of drinking.
Right.
But when the fuck am I gonna stop having these like, these little like, I call them like insecurity parties with Michael, like with Mike?
Probably never.
Never.
Right.
But have I gotten better at just being like, kind of like, fuck off?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that what muffles that noise and that voice is the work I put in.
Right.
Right? And the acceptance and the stuff that I have to do. All right, so if I don't drink today, like, it's because of what I did yesterday in my brain. Right? Whether that's something you guys go off or not. So like, so what I'm doing today is setting me up for tomorrow, even though I'm not promised for it. Like I always say, like, I want tomorrow to be better than today.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that I'm gonna get like $100,000 check in the mail, or like, cause like now I've accepted all those things are just things. What my life goal is to die sober.
Right.
So all those other things that are happening while I'm making sure I'm sober is great. I'm okay with that now, right? So like recently I have to go back to court for the kids, even though like I've killed it and I'm the best dad there is now, and DCYF should give me an award, right?
Right.
But I'm okay before, like, if you talked to me 8 months ago, I would be so angry that I have to go to court next week. I'd be like, this stupid bitch.
Yeah, I can picture you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now I'm just like, gotta go to court and listen to them tell me everything's fine, and like, she's not fine, right? And like, I have to pray for that person. I pray for her every night, more than ever, right?
Right.
So, but like all that stuff going on, like I'm very taken by the fact that the Bud Light or the Jameson isn't the first thought. It's the solution of how to fix the problem I'm going through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't have that.
That's the best part.
I've never had that in my life.
That's amazing.
So like, if DCYF calls me and they're like, hey, listen, we have another court date, your lawyer needs a payment, and you have to be here, and you have to submit this paperwork, I would like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the old me would have been like, you know what, I can see my kids on the weekends. Bye.
Right.
Because I did that. But I never talked about that or accepted it until I did.
Right.
And then what happened a week later, I was able to see my children.
Right.
After 8 fucking months of not seeing them. Because no acceptance, no work really to what's going on. I was just angry at what happened. I wasn't bringing no solution around that.
Right.
I was avoiding the late act appointments, and I was avoiding the parent teach. Like, I was like, how are you going to teach me how to be a parent? And like, the lady was like, how aren't we going to teach you? Your children are about to go to foster care.
Right.
So I'm sure you need to learn a few things. Right. And now if someone said that to me, I'd be like, let's go to that class, and like, I want to win the class.
Right.
Like, I want to be number one in that class. I want to leave there because I have that ego issue. I want to leave the class. Is there a certificate? Because I want that.
Yeah.
Can you print that for me, Brett? Right? So like, but no alcohol or heroin were a thought in those.
And it's funny because you were talking about the ego with the chips and getting chips and stuff like that.
Dude, look, turn around.
I had never.
You have to like that. That's only because Rachel had that made for me, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, I see it.
If she didn't have that made for me, that would not be on my wall today. Because I feel now, when I bring over a sponsee and they look up and see that,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, wow, man.
Cool.
But my girlfriend had it made. It was handmade. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, and I always looked at it, because I even used to say to my sponsor all the time, I think after I got my 6-month chip, I didn't get any more chips. Because I was like, it's the curse of the chip. That was my thing in sober living. It's the curse of the chip. Every time I got a chip, another month, something would happen, and I felt like I hadn't even progressed. But I've learned, and I heard this through somebody else that we actually worked with. She put a quote or something, and I saw it, and I was like, I never really thought of it that way. It was like my ego wasn't allowing me to receive or what is the word? Like, take the accomplishment of whatever it is. If it's going to be considered an accomplishment, yes. You know, it's like, yes, I put together this many days in a row, you know, so that should be celebrated. And I've always denied myself that.
because you probably feel like it's celebrating what you should be doing anyway, right?
And that's kind of how I looked at it. That's definitely how I looked at it. I looked at it as, it's something I should be doing anyway, so why should
My dad doesn't get a
why
mark.
should somebody be like patting me on the back and so on and so forth? And then I finally, just recently, was talking to a couple people about it, my therapist and somebody else, and I was asking them about it, and I said, well, what do you think that would feel like if you just allowed yourself some kudos, you know, once in a while? Give you, don't you think that might be a good thing? And I like denied myself that for all these years.
Yeah.
And so finally, and I just, and they actually kind of very excited about this, is that I asked my daughter to give me my 5-year chip, because this woman at my home group, she got her 25-year chip, and her son was there to give it to her.
That's awesome. My daughter.
And I've heard, and I remember you telling me that, and I was like so jealous. I was actually like boiling pissed.
Yeah.
When you told me that story, I was like, fuck, I need to get my own daughter to do that.
And in this kitchen.
Yeah. And I would just like, so this is my first chip I've gotten that I'll actually receive since I got my 6-month chip. Next month, I'll get a 5-year chip. My daughter, I asked my daughter, and she said she'd come and do it.
That's amazing.
So that's like, if anything, that's like the gifts.
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly.
Those are the gifts of sobriety. That's why we do what we do.
So, when I was sponsoring a lot of guys for my own, I think, my own ego at one point. Now I sponsor just a couple guys because I don't have the time.
Right.
I'm just gonna. There's no excuse behind it. It's flat out.
Right.
Come walk a mile in the shoes, and you can sponsor 5 guys if you can manage it. I can't.
Right.
That's the honesty.
Yeah.
But can I take on 2 guys that are willing to work? Absolutely, and I have that right now. But what I did with one of them, I started up this little thing. I'm like, because he kept saying like, "Will you come with me to get my 2-month chip?" And I'm like, "No. If I'm at the meeting, sweet, cool."
Yeah.
I said, "But hey, from now on, make a little checklist. If it's 5 things and 5 goals. If you hit those goals in that 30-day span, go get your fucking chip because you're working your recovery. The
Right.
chip is, to me, yeah, it's days. It's 30, 60, whatever days.
Mhm.
But what'd you do in those 30 days
Right.
that had you earn that fucking chip?
Right.
Because drinking and drugging didn't earn you the chip.
Right.
Like, how did you change and grow?
Right.
So I have them write 5 or whatever they come up with. I'm like, don't do 100 because like you're gonna extort yourself, right? But 5 goals, 5 things that you're gonna do differently, or whatever you come up with. I don't even care, like, you know. And to this day, he's about to hit like 7 months, and he's hit every single one of them. And then when he doesn't, he's like, I'm not grabbing that chip. I'm like, you can still get the chip because you're trying, you're working the program.
Right.
Because he's already read the 4-step, and he's already sponsoring a guy, right? So like, okay, cool. So like, what am I like? It's hard for me because like I never got past that stage with my sponsees because like they fucking keep relapsing.
Right.
I hate to say it.
Right.
Like I've had an old timer recently tell me the addicts and the alcoholics are a different breed. He's like, I've been in the program 31 years in and out, and he's at like 9 or 10 years now, steady back, you know. But the relapse rate it's just, you guys know. We work it.
Insane.
It's because of these ego-driven little fucking sober house managers that run into these programs, and they think they're sponsoring guys by bringing them to bowl night to see how many girls they could fuck and how many shoes they could buy.
Right.
And I'll say it, and I've said this at meetings. Like the Hope Center, or the Pete from the Hope Center called me recently, asked me to speak there. I said, you don't want me speaking there. You probably won't have anybody at the next meeting. And he's like, what? I'm like, I'm just gonna tell you, the last time I spoke there was like I had some angry Facebook messages from some people, dude, like calling me all kinds of names. And guess what? Cool, you're right, I am an asshole. Right. But like, I didn't get sober by someone co-signing my bullshit.
Right.
My sponsor was 6 or 8 years younger than me, which I struggled with that. I'm like, there's no way this kid's gonna, like you said earlier, this kid's gonna fucking tell me what to do. I could not do it. Dude, if I went to his house to work on step work and I picked up, I don't play Xbox. If I even picked up his Xbox controller, he's like, why'd you come here?
Right.
I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you don't even have your notebook in your hand.
Right.
If I walked in there and started bitching about Ryan Emerson, my house manager at the time, he's like, why'd you come here? What? You don't have your notebook in your hand.
Right.
Because like the goal for sponsoring, get through the fucking the work.
Right.
The work. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your counselor.
Right.
I'm not your relationship fucking therapist. Right? But that's where these guys, unfortunately, somewhere along the line, the guys that are sponsoring people took on, like, I gotta tell this dude how to get chicks. I gotta make sure he's fly.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why what I said earlier off camera about the community.
Yeah.
I do love everybody. I want everybody to succeed. Like, I want no job tomorrow. Like, people don't want to work themselves out of a job. I do.
Right.
I don't want to go back to work tomorrow because I work in addiction. I work in recovery.
Yeah.
Right? But I feel we're harming. There's a lot of people letting other people harm out there. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not that guy. If you guys know me pretty well, I'm not sugarcoating. I'm not co-signing. I'm not gonna. And one of my best friends, and you guys know who I'm talking about, still is a little sick with that. And just did a huge life-altering thing for himself because he had to accept that over 2 years sober. Right? He was losing friends. He was losing like these connections with these people that he got sober with, and he's like, "What the fuck's going on?" I'm like, "It's no more flash, dude. It's no longer cool to be the coolest guy in AA."
Right. Yeah, it's not. There's no need for it.
And like that goes back to like, how'd you stay sober? I wasn't allowed to do anything fun at the time. Sound fun. Right? You come home late, you're restricted tomorrow.
Yeah.
You come home late on your restriction, your bags are out the door.
Right. Yeah, that was very similar to where I went for sober living.
Hope you make it back, right?
Yeah, for sober living. I mean, and for me too. I mean, obviously we could get into a whole other thing with that. It's like sober living for me was.
It saved my life.
That was it's 100% saved my life.
Absolutely.
Like listening to, like I said earlier, listening to these group of young 20-something-year-old ex-heroin addicts. And I'm like, you did heroin, I drank. And I'm like, how the hell are you going to help
We're
me?
not the same, right?
I'm like, they're like, just shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Like, you might actually hear something. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And it was just doing that over and over, like fighting it every day.
You know what blows people's mind? Is when you look at them, and I can say this honestly, I don't know about you two, I can't speak for you guys.
Right.
I look at someone, I'm like, taking heroin and alcohol out of my life is pretty fucking easy, actually. It's all the other shit.
It's all the other shit, yeah, 100%. I agree with that. 100%.
That I
It's the
struggle
easiest
with.
part.
I openly, like I said, I have to tell people, yes, I struggle with conduct.
Yeah.
In early recovery, dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Because I had a big book in this hand and a condom in this hand, I thought I was doing good. At least I'm wearing this. I didn't wear this before. Progress, not perfection. You know, and like, what the? And I had guys like Ryan, which I love that guy. I mean, Ryan and I don't always see eye to eye. We never have, even before we got sober, because we knew each other in active use. But yeah, thank you. I've had to say that to him. I had to make amends to Ryan repeatedly
Right.
over millions of different things, all the way through sober living. I tortured that poor man. But he never gave up. He was just doing what someone did for him.
Right. Yeah, that's the biggest part of it.
Because me and Ryan's biggest problem was I couldn't manipulate him all the way. I could sometimes trick him, and I think it was just out of his own frustration and tired. He's like, dude, whatever, you're gonna do it anyway. Like,
right.
I guess you're willing to suffer the consequence. Like,
right.
But then I got to the point where I used to go home 5 minutes late to piss Ryan off. Right? I used to make sure I knew the latest meeting at night, so I knew it was a 20-minute drive back from that meeting, so I could be like, dude, I'm at a meeting, bro. And finally he was like, stop going to that meeting. You can't go to that meeting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which made me go to that meeting, which got me home. I'm 36 years old and I'm on restriction, and I'm like, then I'm sitting in my car at 6:58 to make sure I walk in the door at 7:02, because I had to be home at 7. And then Ryan's like, tomorrow night, if you're not home at 7, your bags will be packed and you'll be leaving. And at the time, I had just found I got indicted on a charge.
Yeah.
So I possibly was going to prison.
Yeah.
All this shit was stacking up, and I was like, perfect. He just gave me an excuse. Right? And then, but I went, prayed on it, which that night, I'm glad I did pray.
Right.
I woke up the next morning and my whole attitude changed. I apologized to Ryan outside smoking a butt before I left to work. I was home at 5:45. I was cooking dinner. I was paying an old fine from like 2012 that I had the money, but I still didn't want to pay it. Until I realized, if you don't turn that wheel over like we talked about, and just stop doing anything, even the littlest things Mike's way, just stop fucking doing it.
Yeah.
As soon as you want to as soon as I feel like, all right, I'm gonna do it. To this day, I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
And that goes in so many other things, buying shoes, the whole like.
To answer the question that you asked earlier, it's really not so much what I'm doing. It's like I'm not doing.
Perfect answer.
Anything.
I like that.
Like I'm just not doing the stuff that got me where I was. So, and everything else was like, yeah, I gotta do stuff that I don't want to do, but like.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
Like in a way, it's like
to being a big boy.
Yeah, dude. and like I'm not trying to like hog the meeting or whatever.
Yeah,
but
no, it's all
it's
good.
just like it's something that I don't get to speak on much because I have men in my life that are in recovery, but like a lot of them aren't still there yet to like we could sit here and have these open conversations. Because if I start spieling off like this on a couple of the guys like I share a hobby with, like riding bikes with, it's like, whoa, bro, we're riding bikes. Can we leave recovery at home? And I'm like, okay, I get it. Right? We're stepping outside in a way.
Yeah.
Outside of shit, we should. That's what we have this hobby for.
Right.
But like at the same time, if I do that, a couple of them would just be like, all right, let's talk. Because a couple of the guys are still very into the program.
Right.
And that's a huge part of my staying sober is I found those guys because I so badly want to go hang out with the other bikers I know, right? That would be fun. Girls like doing Jello shots off you and all that cool stuff.
Right.
And I still like they see my Facebook post and like, dude, you should come to the next rally, and I'm like, delete. I have to because my brain just went, go to that fucking rally, bro.
Right.
You're not gonna drink, but I'm probably gonna do something stupid because I'm still bringing Mike to it.
Right.
So like that was a great answer.
Yeah.
It's simple as fucking hits, and it's so perfect. I'm just not doing the things.
Yeah, it's like all the little sayings that they have in AA, which I used to just hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still hate them.
I'm just like so funny because I think in part of being my home group is all old timers, so 20 to 40 something years. That's like the simplest. Like, just keep it simple, Steve.
Yeah.
Literally just keep it simple because we have a tendency not to.
Yeah, but
simple.
your brain,
That's not
your
fun.
mind's probably like simple's not fun.
Simple's
We're
not
such chaotic people.
simple
We're like,
is-
wait,
yeah,
can we just
simple is
have
not
some healthy
fun.
chaos?
Simple is not fun, and I get it. And back to the whole thing with you talking about, people sponsoring people, and it's so funny because a lot of the guys that have asked me to sponsor them, that I said, yeah, I'll do it. And so where's your notebook?
Yeah.
You know, this one guy in particular, I love him as a human being, great person. Just does not or did not want to do the writing. I'm like, I can be your friend.
Yeah.
And then he literally straight out said to me, well, this is why I don't call you, because you talk about doing steps. And I'm like,
I'm your fucking sponsor.
I'm like, well, that's what you asked me to
Yeah.
do. That's why you asked me to sponsor you, correct? Like, you did take a third step and said, I'm willing to go to any length.
Yep.
And that's what my job is as a sponsor, I believe, is to help you get through that part where you feel like this is too hard to write, or I don't need to write this, or I let it go already, or I've already moved on, or whatever.
Save your lies for your parents, I tell them.
And
If you're gonna lie to your parents. We've already done enough of that. Keep going.
And that's the funny thing is that I said to him, I'm like, dude, you don't want somebody to sponsor you. You just want someone to complain to, or so I can do that. I'm like, if you want me to BS you and sugarcoat everything and tell you life is gonna be great if you just keep going along the way you're going, then
the two people
I will tell you that
I allowed that. What you're talking about? The two people I allowed that to happen with fired me as a sponsor, and now are house managers somewhere doing great, and they're my best friends.
Right.
Because like, if we're gonna relapse, that's whatever, right? Like I can't stop you from fucking relapsing.
Right.
But if I'm your sponsor and we're not doing the work and you relapse, I'm taking that on the chin hard. I'm just that guy.
Right.
But if you're my buddy and you relapse, I'm gonna help. Like you relapsed. Luckily you didn't die. Now let's move forward. Right?
Yeah.
So like, when these guys come, like you said, and they don't show up with a notebook, or they're like, well, I don't really want to work on my fear inventory.
Right.
Why did you waste my fucking time?
Right.
Right? Because like, again, I wasn't allowed to do that. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, well,
I'm
going
to
to
tell you all the
that
things,
either.
like he said, that are gonna work. It didn't work. Why are we talking about it?
Yeah.
We can go over them real quick, and then you just heard me tell you.
Yeah.
Right? So this worked. You asked me how I bought a new Harley and how I got my kids back, because I had to do this shit first.
Right.
All that shit was put way back in the burner. I put them in the back burner for years. What was another year of my life?
Right.
At the time, it was anger, and I was really mad about that.
Right.
But I had to listen to one of them corny fucking sayings from AA.
Right.
If you put anything in front of your recovery, you're going to lose it anyway.
Yes.
I've already lost it, so I'm getting it back. This is how I get it back? Cool.
Right.
And it was like you said, you were broken and done with it.
Yeah.
So when someone tells me I'm broken and done with my life and I'm willing to do anything sober, now I'm such a bitter prick where I'm like, you're fucking lying to me. And they're like, how are you? What do you mean? I'm like, where's the action?
Right.
You haven't come to group in 3 days. When you come to group, you're talking to the girl, and you don't even have your big book. The one thing that you should be carrying around with you in treatment.
Always.
Always.
Yeah. And that was, I mean, of gut
If
life.
anything, to catch me on my bullshit. Oh yeah, motherfucker. It says right here. Like I was that guy in treatment. I'm like,
Yeah.
how can I catch this guy?
I think you and I mean, obviously we know Brett, but I think where the way we went through treatment program, whatever, sober living, it was different.
Very different.
It was very different.
Scary different. Because now.
And it was like, it was like boot camp. And I was like, I am grateful that I went to where I went to, even though I went kicking and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm glad I went there, because they were like, you're not doing anything until you finish writing your 4th step.
Yep.
And I was like, are you shitting me? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
And they're like, you don't get a phone, you don't get this, you don't get. I was like, what the fuck did I sign up for? And I complained so much about that. But for me, I needed that. Because I didn't have that structure. I mean, yes, I had my father who was a disciplinary, my mother was kind of a disciplinary, but not really. But I hadn't had that type of structure where somebody said, this is the only way that you're going to get better, that you're going to feel better, that you're going to have that, you want your daughter back in your life, well, this is how it's going to be accomplished. Okay, we can't guarantee you when, But if you do this, we promise that one day
Yeah. And
she will want to be packing your lunch.
it's scary too because a lot of people they come in, they're broken and they lost their children or whatever, right? And they say they want the kids back.
Right.
I ask them now because like I have that experience. It's one more thing I had to put myself through to relate to certain people.
Right.
I just flat out asked them, do you really want your kid back? Because I had all 3 of my kids back here and they like called my aunt freaking out. Like, I don't know if I can do this.
Right.
I sat out in that back parking lot at 7:30 at night because like my 6-year-old's throwing fits asking for her mom. My 14-year-old's not talking to me because she didn't really, I mean, it's been a year since we talked.
Right.
And my 16-year-old's so fucking traumatized by traumas from relationships with her mother.
Right.
And here I am, I have to answer to all this now. I have to fix all this and I can barely fix me.
Right.
So I was freaking out.
Right.
And I sat out in that car, I cried on the phone with my aunt that's been very supportive of my children, but not with me. Which I hated her for the longest time. Like, why don't you love me like you love my kids kind of thing. I didn't say that to her, but like, how are you telling me not to call your house? And she's like, because you're not supposed to.
Right.
I'm not losing these kids, you lost them.
Right.
Click. Right?
Wow.
So, then I get it all back. And then I'm scared shitless and I'm like, how do I do this?